What's up, everybody? Time for another game theory video. Remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. Or I will start doing ASMR videos. Oh, fuck. Anyway, today I'm going to do a video about, stuff I've talked about before, of course, but I want to do a video directly talking about it or solely talking about it. And that's how supers don't feel special anymore in fighting games and how badly designed it actually makes supers, right? I've talked about before, of course, video games need to progress. We have things like custom combos, whatever, EX moves. It could be Guilty Gear, where, your FDing, your RCing, your FRCing, whatever. So many video games as they've progressed, not only do we have super, an actual super to use the super meter, we also have these other versatile options to use the super meter. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of sort of, let's call it, it could be one step forward, one step back, one step forward, two steps back, whatever. Unfortunately, as video games have become, from a certain perspective, more versatile usages of meter, often there's not actually a good enough reason to use the super, right? And it's a problem. Supers don't feel special. Even when I look at Street Fighter 6, I've said before, the system, generally speaking, I do like Street Fighter 6 because I've talked about before that you're always going to see supers, right? And there's too often in newer games, and games for many, many years now, actually, where when you have more versatile usages of super, when there's so many different ways to use your meter, it's like, well, do I really want to spend my whole meter on a super when I have all these other versatile usages of it, right? So Street Fighter 6, I do think is, a reasonable idea to keep the super meter separate. So we can see these other versatile usages of meter while still seeing the super. The super feels special. But even in Street Fighter 6, when we look at the game, a lot of these supers that we're looking at, don't they kind of feel like they're just combo filler? You know what I mean? So much of Street Fighter 6 I've seen like, oh, well, where are you going to do this super? It's like, oh, that's your combo filler super. Oh, if I have the super, I'm going to super there at the end, right? The super doesn't actually feel versatile itself, right? Which is a problem, right? And I've talked about before, even as a game, I've given an example of a game like Guilty Gear. As much of goodwill as Guilty Gear has, a game like Guilty Gear, I don't think you generally see supers enough, right? Especially in some of the older ones, right? Because supers, you just have too much of a versatile usages of your meter that you could be doing on other things. The super just generally isn't worth it, right? And to give some different examples, one was a comment when I was talking about this in a video before, and some guy was like, oh, well, what about Street Fighter 3? And I'm like, you see supers there. And my argument would be, okay, Street Fighter 3, is the super itself special? Or is it just as important the bar itself? Because if you look at a game like Street Fighter 3, how often do you see in the meta of whatever, of like, I want to pick this super because I have more EX meter. I can charge up multiple level 3s or supers, whatever, right? I can charge up 3 bars, which means that I can also keep supering while doing many EX moves. Oh, this super only goes to 1 bar. Well, the super probably isn't good enough to warrant me ever doing the super, generally speaking, because I want to use EX moves. You know what I mean? So from that perspective, if you get what I'm getting at, people are like, well, what about Street Fighter 3? You see how important are supers there? And I would say the argument to that is, how important is the bar actually there, rather than the super and its versatility itself? Now, of course, there's certain supers. You could say Ryu's, electric Hadouken, right? You know what I mean? Of course, we think about that super as having kind of a specific versatility. But even if you think about that compared to a game like, Second Impact, where you could charge up multiple of it, even in the meta of Third Strike, it's kind of accepted that that super, even though it is more versatile, because you can't use EX moves as much, you know what I mean? Because you can only charge it up once, you tend to see the Shinku Hadouken, right? I would say that's a problem. And you almost never see the Shinchoruken, right? I would actually say, why not just make the, in Third Strike, you could say something like Akuma's ground pound super. I think that's the one, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the one move that you could not parry the first hit. Like, why is Ryu's Shinshuriken, why is that like a not parryable move when it's in the air or something, right? Make it so you can parry it on the ground, of course, but make it so it's an unparryable move. It's an anti-air, whatever. The point is, supers don't feel special enough, right? Even if, and this is an example I don't think I've talked about before. Of course, I've shitted on Alpha 2 before. You know what I mean? Look at a game like Alpha 2, and this is where I want to talk about one step forward, one step back, right? One step forward, two steps back, right? Of course, if we think about, there's certain, more hardcore old school players. Although I'm an old school player, I don't hate supers. I don't hate progression of games, anything like that, right? But there are definitely old school players that don't like Super Turbo whatsoever, right? Because they think supers have too much of an influence on the match, right? They like Hyper Fighting or Championship Edition, right? Which then I always say the hypocrisy that then some of these people like Alpha 2, where custom combos, look at the influence those have over a match, right? But let's look at, say Alpha 1 to Alpha 2, right? Alpha 1, supers were still versatile, so to speak, right? You know what I mean? They were for combos. You had super fires. Your super fireball was still a super fireball, right? Going through fucking full screen, fireballs, right? Your super still did mad damage, right? You still used your super for the invincibility, right? For the unblockable if you weren't blocking, right before you did the super, right? But then if we get into Alpha 2, the custom combo almost fills every portion that the super used to do, besides the combo filler. And that's why, when I was even talking about, a lot of supers just feel like combo filler. And that's why, I've talked about, and this was, I even said this years ago, and you can still watch matches of the game, and the game is not different than it was many, many years ago. I remember when, years and years ago when I've talked about Alpha 2, because I heard people were talking about, oh, it's so amazing now, blah, blah, blah. It's so much different than it was back in the day. And I'm like, the game is not different. The game has not progressed whatsoever, right? If you look at Alpha 2, what do people actually use supers for? Go watch a match of Ken or some shit. Whoever it might be. Do you think Ken is doing a Shinryuken as an anti-air super? No. Do you think he's doing a Shoryu Reppa super to blow through moves? No. Supers are almost only fucking combo filler in Alpha 2, right? Look at Ken, right? You know what I mean? Maybe you'll do like a couple shorts, you know what I mean, into a fucking Shoryu Reppa or super, something like that. But the rest of your meter units for alpha counters are custom combos, right? You know what I mean? If you want to anti-air through something, you're going to custom combo. If you're going to want to blow through a move, you're going to custom combo. If you want a random super hoping the guy wasn't going to block, you're going to custom combo. Custom combo, and it actually does more damage than the super, right? Look at how bastardized supers are in Alpha 2 compared to just the game before in Alpha 1. Look how slow Ryu's super fireball is. You've actually taken the versatility even away of these supers. Not only do they do less damage, they're not as invincible, they're not as fast, anything like that, right? So it's like a double whammy, right? Not only is there more versatile usages of your meter, these more versatile usages of the meter actually do more damage. They're safer, they're better. Again, they're more versatile, they do more different things. The super is almost kind of like, fuck, you know what I mean? I'm Ken, I guess I did a duck short a couple times. I have a super, I'll do a Shoryu Reppa. You know what I mean? Oh, fuck, I'm Ryu. I guess I'll do a couple shorts to a super. Oh, I'm just blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Very, very random. Oh, a guy, well, I guess I threw you in the corner. I guess I could do a super. You know what I mean? Imagine this, you know what I mean? Just for sake of argument, if we were to balance Alpha 2, for just to throw a grain of salt, imagine if in Alpha 2, supers were still as powerful as they were just say in Alpha 1. They were still as fast. They still had the versatility. They still had the invincibility. They were still just as safe, right? And say for custom combos, we toned them down just a smidge in some fashion. Do you think that would actually, in a sort of weird way, just tone down custom combos in a sort of way? Not that, and that this isn't, I don't think custom combos should exist, period, because I think they're fucking stupid. But I'm just throwing this, and seeing if it sticks in your brain. Imagine if supers still functioned as the way they did in Alpha 1. Fast, powerful, versatile, instead of Alpha 2 just being basically combo filler. The damage is not totally ridiculously different from doing a super and a custom combo. You know, tone down custom combos a little bit so you don't get such ridiculous, you know, it's so stupid that custom combos do more damage than the fucking super in the first place, right? The point is, again, I would actually be curious if you tone down custom combos a little bit. And of course, Alpha 2 is a fucked up game anyway when you talk about the priorities of moves and how some moves are punishable on hit. It's fucking retarded, right? But I think you can clearly see that supers, you know what I mean? There's a problem with supers in video games, dude, right? Supers aren't important enough, right? You look at a game like Third Strike or the Street Fighter 3 series, right? People say it's like, oh, you picked this super, you picked this super, you picked this super. I would argue, how much are you picking that super for the versatility of the super itself, or are you picking that super for the bar? Because the bar is the versatility, not the super. That's why I said like Ryu Shin Shoryuken, dude, right? That should be way better. You should be inclined to want to use that super, right? But in general, you aren't. And again, I know you can pick out random examples like, well, that's super, you know, people do pick, you know, electric Hadouken with Ryu sometimes. Okay, yeah. But then you also have some people that say like, you know what? Generally, you just pick Shin Hadouken because guess what? It's not as good as Second Impact because in Second Impact, you got multiple bars. And we want the versatility. So the point is, what I'm getting at here is, again, you know, and of course I've talked about, you know, this in other videos. I don't think I've talked too much about the Third Strike and the Alpha 2 example in this specific context, because I think it goes to show you that supers are just not good enough. Supers don't feel special enough. They don't feel game-changing enough, right? And that's what the super is supposed to be. And of course, you have the whole hypocrisy of people saying like, oh, I hate supers that have a big influence on the match, but I love custom combos. You're fucking retard, right? You know, supers need to feel more special. We need more supers like, say, again, I'll use Ryu as an example. Ryu in the Shin Shoryuken in CVS 1, where it was basically 80% life, right? There was a reason, like Ryu, even though Ryu was not, you know, the best character in that game, even though so many characters were like, oh, Guile and Nakaru were the best, or we want to pick all these level 1 characters, right? Ryu, decent character in the game, but man, he had that super that was like, man, that super, man, if I use him to save up the super, I want to save up the super for Ryu, right? I think characters having special, you know, qualities, almost gimmicks, if you will, like that is fun. Look at a character, and this is getting in a bit into like, you know, I guess it's a system of CVS1, but even if you look at CVS1 and you think about Iori and how Iori had that gimmick of his 8 wine glass super because it was just so powerful in that game with SNK Groove. Was it basic? Was it scrubby? Was it easy to do? Yes, but you know what? It made it memorable. It made it feel special, right? And often when you play a game for a specific reason, to play that specific character, right? Supers being bad, supers being versatile, being quirky is not bad. Making supers just combo filler is not good. It's not big brain. It's not progressing it's not progressing video games. You know what I mean? There's no galaxy brain thing like, oh, my super, it's the combo filler. There's no thought in that, right? So anyway, again, I just want to talk about, you know, because supers, they're a fucking problem in video games. And even Street Fighter 6, you know, I look at it and I'm like, man, at least we're going to see supers from one perspective. And it's good that you're going to see supers, I think, from a certain perspective, right? Because the supers should be seen. It should feel special. But when you look at the supers, a lot of these supers, they don't actually seem versatile. They actually seem like the combo filler. Like, oh, I had super, so I'm going to super at the end of this, right? It's not like, wow, that super has this crazy priority. It's like, oh, Ryu, like, look at Ryu's level 2 super. Wow, what a versatile level 2 super. Oh, level 2 super. Oh, what do you do? Well, you can charge it up. Oh, so you mean you charge it up? And they specifically made it so you can charge it up after his EX palm strike or EX thrust kick. Oh, yeah, but then you can call it. Yeah, so it's specifically for this purpose. I mean, come on. Do you get a minute? Oh, the Shin Shoryuken, right? You see what I mean? It's like, oh, that's your level 3, right? Like, even when I've tried to watch matches, oh, that's what it does. It doesn't feel special, right? It feels specific, right? It feels tacked on. Anyway, if you like the videos, like, subscribe, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.